All right. So this is a special meeting of the Norwich Board of Listers. It's August 29th, 3 p.m., and we're in the Listers office, and we are also on Zoom. I am Cheryl Lindberg, Lister and Chair of the Board of Listers, and Ernie Ciccatelli is right here, and he is a Lister as well. We have a vacancy. So I'm going to call the meeting to order here at 3:01. I think I started a minute ago. And the first item on the agenda is a review and approval of the agenda. You're
Yes.
taking notes, you need a pen?
Yes, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a few from Mascoma Bay. So the first item is a review and approval, the second item of the agenda. I have no changes to suggest. Ernie, anything?
No.
No? Okay, so,
So I want to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
okay, I will second the motion. Any further discussion? How do you vote?
Aye.
All right, and I vote yes, motion passes, so the agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is public comments. And since we do have public here, didn't know if Everett, you'd like to make any comments for the moment, or?
I'm good.
Great, that's fine. Thank you. Well, he's got his own item. Is
No
there any
comments.
public comment you'd like to offer in before your?
No public comment.
Okay,
Just making sure.
well, it's item
Appreciate it.
not on the agenda, and Evan knows he's on the agenda, so that's all good. Okay, thanks. So none.
Well, you could have been saying what a wonderful thing we have as the listeners, you know.
It's true.
That's not on the agenda.
Isn't it? Okay, well, we're gonna move right along to item number 4. Today, item number 4 is an appeal to a penalty that is assessed when a property owner in Vermont, anywhere in Vermont, doesn't file their HS 122 on time. It can, depending upon the town, generate a penalty. So in this case, it does in Norwich, and Evan is here to talk with us about that and has sent us an email with some information. So Evan, I'll give you a minute to.
I'll scoot closer.
No, you're fine. I can
Go
turn
here?
I can turn the oh yeah, you
Okay.
can hear Everett, right? Yes. You can hear Evan? Yeah.
Okay. First, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My wife and I filed our HS 122 late. I will just note we are newer to Vermont. We are certainly younger and learning how Vermont works versus different states we've lived and worked in the past. All that said, reading through the HS 122 and the policies, we completely understand the late penalty. We acknowledge that it was put in place fairly and in accordance with town rules. We are simply asking for a consideration on goodwill to either reduce or eliminate the penalty, considering that our fees went up as a result of the filing. In other words, my opinion would be the town is better off financially for the changed designation, and therefore all I'm saying is that all else would be the same for the town if the penalty were wiped for us.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I can interpret that. Yes, so what happens, just to be clear, is when somebody lives, their permanent residence is in Norwich, Vermont versus other towns, the homestead education tax rate
Yes.
is greater than the non-homestead education tax rate. So the monies that you're adding to your tax bill because you're going to get the higher rate for education isn't coming to Norwich. It's going to the state of Vermont.
Understood.
Okay, just to
Yes.
clarify that. Your municipal rate is set equally whether
Yeah.
you live in town as a resident or a non-resident. So just to be clear on that message to you.
Understood.
And
Thank
they
you for the
understood,
clarification.
yes, okay, great. So with that said, yes, when you filed, you in fact got a higher tax rate because you are doing the right thing, which we
Yep.
appreciate you doing, because the state really appreciates it with the education piece.
Certainly.
And if they find out anything differently, they can be not as friendly.
Understood.
Understood, and we understand. So that's not our job, but glad that you understood to comply and appreciate that. So so I think that this is as simple as that for us to just give us your explanation and confirm it with us. We will deliberate afterwards, as we did when we came to look at your property and we left you, and then we deliberated on different things and made our decisions and then issued you a decision. And what we will do is deliberate at the end of the meeting afterwards, which
Great.
can be done in a non-open session, and then we'll issue you a letter. Now, unfortunately, this timing is very tight
Yep.
because the first payment is due.
That's fine. We will pay
Yeah.
what is in the bill. And then if there were to be a change, I assume that would be changed on the bill to come next year.
Yeah, the bill doesn't come out again, but there would be some adjustment that would credit your February amount downward, and you would look
Understood.
for that from the finance office, and probably a revised tax bill will get presented to you at some point. So just watch for that. Revised tax bills get done pretty quickly after an adjustment or
Sure.
a change of some reason or other gets made by the listers.
Great.
Those get generated in a fair amount of time, short amount of time, a couple weeks at the most. So you can look for that from us, and I'm glad that we again got to see you and clarify what happened, and the importance of what you did is the right thing. So that's great.
Thank you.
Yes, feel good. And welcome to Vermont once again.
Thank you.
The very
We're-
heavy taxing state.
We're learning, but we're happy to be here.
Yeah,
And
good.
where did you say you came from?
Well, my wife and I lived in New Hampshire for a period of time, and then we met in Massachusetts. And before that, I lived in Pennsylvania for a bit.
But you're a New Englander, basically.
Mostly grew up in New Hampshire.
And nothing over there was better than being on this side.
Just, we're happy to have chosen the Vermont side.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Well, we're glad you did too. So all said and done. I don't have any other questions for you, Evan, and like
Sounds
I
great.
said, we'll be back in touch by a letter.
Great. Is it appropriate for me to step out, or should I stick around?
We're not going to deliberate until the end of the meeting, so we're going to probably be at this meeting for at least an hour, hour and a half before we get to deliberative session. So
That's fine. But you're okay if I step out?
yeah, you're done.
Oh,
Yeah, you're done
thank
with us, and so
Yeah,
yes,
You can go.
you're lucky. We're going to be here for a while.
Alrighty. Y'all have a good
Okay,
day.
take care. Thanks,
Enjoy your
Evan.
long weekend.
Yep, you too. All right, so we will take that information, and Ernie, and later on, and just for Everett's benefit, if you understood the process here, HS 122s need to be filed timely. If they're not, and you live in Norwich, there is a penalty that goes to the town of Norwich for the late filing and the extra work involved in revising the tax bill and doing that work. So it's allowed, and it is done in Norwich, and anybody that does get assessed the penalty can come and appeal to the listers first. And that's
Okay.
what's here today.
Yep.
Did you have any comments or questions about that? No.
Pretty clear. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Ask you to mute yourself again, Everett.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the reappraisal update. KRT Appraisal is the reappraisal firm that the town is using. And Ernie, I wanted to have this on here so that we are staying on top of the date and time. It is planned for the 9th of September at 10 a.m.
Mhm.
And we're meeting here in Tracy Hall. The town manager is involved in that meeting. And I pushed out an email a day or so ago to them to give them a reminder and keep them on our radar with us. And
Have they responded to our, the new, the new contract that we,
That's all taken care of.
okay, it's not
Long
a question,
ago.
I'm just, I have other things on my mind. so-
Yeah, it had to be, or
Yeah.
we couldn't have done a grand list.
Okay.
It had to get. Yes, all of that is there. So the contract that we've all signed, both sides, will be a critical piece to this meeting. So prior to that, we should get together and come up with our bullet list of items that are sitting there, we believe need addressing and discussing at that meeting, because that is, we want to make that meeting efficient.
Mhm.
I did speak with the town manager today briefly about it. He has, maybe a couple things to share, but he feels that the listers would be the ones taking the lead on the meeting and bringing forth what we are concerned about or what we feel is important in getting the next year under our belt, the next 9 months under the belt, and getting the reappraisal docs ready for the 4/1/25 reappraisal. So we should come up with an afternoon or something, late in the day, whenever it's good for you, or a morning.
We only have a week.
Right, so it's gonna need to be something we could, it's administrative work, it's not like we're making any decisions, so we can certainly sit and go over the contract and pull out pieces that we feel are hot spots to the topic of the meeting that we're gonna have. So that's good. All right. Any other thoughts on that with you? I mean, next week, do you feel like you have any idea of,
Yeah, I will know next week.
right, so Monday's the holiday. The 6th, next Friday, the 6th is the VALA conference, so that day would be out for me. The 5th could work, Thursday the 5th. So maybe make a note to yourself to check on that. And Wednesday the 4th with some, flexibility. The 4th or the 5th, Ernie, can work for me. So you let me know what you might have available for the September 4 or 5. Okay. All right, so the next item is discussing the compensation change that was voted at our recent special town meeting. Article 2, I've given you, Ernie, some documents to look at. I gave you a copy of where things left off in the last personnel policy manual and the FY 2011 fiscal year. The listers were going to be up to like $18.62 an hour, although it looked like there hadn't been any increases planned. So maybe that's not a good number.
No, because it's really old.
Well, I know, but I wanted to at least reflect in there that we were eligible with others to the COLA increase in those years.
Right.
So I do want to, have that be.
Do we have any idea of what the COLA increase would be? It would be now? What it would have increased to?
Well, I think I've given you I gave you the step and grade. So this is the current step and grade that we have to work from. I'm just saying in this regard, we would, depending upon the personnel policy that the board ends up approving, it seems to me that listers would be eligible for COLA because we're in this matrix
Yes,
of a step
but
and
that's
grade.
what I'm saying is, we should have been able to just so we have a starting point, that's all I'm saying. Something here must correspond to what COLA from back then would have added up to. Adding COLA to what we had in whatever the date was that you said from before.
Well, 2011. So there's this was 2011, but there isn't a good number, okay?
It's not a good number for now. What I'm saying is, what now would be take that number and add this, the COLA.
Well, that should essentially be this. 'Cause
Right,
this
we
is-
don't know which one of this, there's a lot of numbers here.
I understand that. So that's where we need
How do
to,
we know which number?
okay, so I gave you some additional information, and we're gonna take our time on this today, Ernie, because this is a very important discussion, and if we don't make a decision today, I'm not gonna be, I'm not pressing us to make a decision. There's an email that Pam Smith sent me today, and I gave you a copy of it.
Oh, okay.
And I gave you the budget that we proposed. You gotta look at all these different documents. So take a minute and look at Pam Smith's email that she sent today, which gives some perspective. Sorry about the quietness, Everett, but we're going over an email that was helping us work towards this recent article passing to pay the listers by the hour, and it just came this morning, and I think Ernie should concentrate on it for a minute.
So she says, this should be a pay in 2022, she said. Pay grade should start at grade 16.
Correct. She was trying to, Pam was a lister at the time and was trying to work
Right.
with me as a lister to come up with a target of something.
No, but she's pretty thorough about when she does stuff.
Yeah,
So
Right.
she said that then,
so grade 16, okay, so you go to the big picture here. This is this big sheet there.
in
Ernie.
step J, so.
So J is way over there, so well, she also used
Well,
16.
the interesting, okay,
She used 16 because she thought that was the town clerk's grade, but it turns out that the town clerk is actually 18. Not 16, which she says up in the beginning of the memo.
so, but does that mean we should be using 16 or 18?
Well, we have to talk about it. I mean, there is no
Well, I
magic
mean, what I'm-
bullet here.
I'm thinking of, if she has gone through this, so,
Well, Pam is trying, we got nowhere with this. This request went nowhere,
I understand that.
Okay.
But the thing is now she's on the select board, she's the chair of the select board.
right?
So, when we start talking about this, and let's say we have to deal with the select board again, or whoever it is it's gonna be.
I think we're done, Ernie. We've
So
been
who's
given,
gonna oppose this? Who's gonna oppose?
nobody should oppose it unless we want to pay ourselves $75 an hour. And
Right,
I think somebody would bring up the topic of that's way out of line.
right. So what I'm saying is that anyone, what I'm trying to think of is who would oppose, who possibly could oppose it. So, even if it's just a citizen.
Right, and if it could be a citizen, well, that's a possibility, but I think the part to the approval was that we don't exceed the budget.
Right.
So that's the stopgap. And that, we pay ourselves a fair rate
Well,
so that we're still being paid in June.
okay.
We're not gonna
So-
use it all up in
We
by
know,
December.
we know we've got something left in the budget, right?
Yeah.
Let me write these things down, so I can look at them and maybe use my own.
So according to the article, and according to an email that I had from the finance director, we had 27,000 for a clerk and 4,500 for the stipends. Was a total of 31,500. That is now merged, but however, being the clerk and having worked for 2 months, I've roughly earned $2,800.
Hold on.
So that leaves us $28,700 to have the office use.
So, okay, and so how much have you collected so far?
It's rounded, 2,800. Which nets us about 28,700 to use by June 30th of 25. Now, if you divided that by 3,
You're going too fast. You said we have about 2,300 left in
we
budget.
have about $9,500 per lister, but we only have 2 listers. So the question is, to get the work done, we may have to work more hours until there's a 3rd lister, at which point we could break down our hours into.
Right, but let's assume, well. Yeah, let's assume there's a 3rd lister, so that we have the budget if we finally get a 3rd lister.
Yeah,
And if we don't, then that 3rd lister's money has to be. But we're trying to set a rate, so the rate's gonna be based on really somehow.
so and so I will share what I think, which I feel is important, and that's why a grade and step matrix works, is because you can pick a grade, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There's 20 steps across each grade. So if we picked a grade and figured out where we should be on that grade, which step we should be at, well, then it would be likely that a new lister would come in at step 1, step A, I guess it is, grade 1, grade whatever, step A. Because that would be the entry level
Yep.
spot of that person who has maybe, and maybe it wouldn't be, maybe they have some skills we don't know about. I know there's a couple people in town that have lister skills, but they haven't opted to apply. So the clerk, as I was serving as clerk, I was at 2428.
Okay,
So I don't know that I'm trying to, I'm more sensitive to the rate than I am the grade, okay?
okay, but hold on. And I understand that, we're not. What I don't, if it's easier to do the math, stay strictly with doing the math first, or just simply dividing it up even, okay? For me, to understand it, and because what you were being paid may or may not have been accurate, but you were the clerk, and I don't know what compensations or compromises were made to determine that rate that you were getting paid.
Well,
Okay.
you and Jonathan determined it. We did discuss it in
No, I know we
in
discussed it,
executive
but
session.
what I mean is we didn't determine it, is we didn't go through what I'm trying to let it get us to go through now.
Okay, well, fair enough.
You know, I mean, we were happy that we had a clerk,
Right.
so, but that, I mean, so, okay, so 9, and how many hope for the rest of the remainder of the year?
Well, I'm gonna say roughly there's $9,500 if we,
Hold on, what,
divide it into thirds.
right, yeah. How many weeks are in the remaining year?
Well, that is something I'll have to see here. Let me think.
That's June 1st, right?
No, it's till June
July 1st,
30th.
July 1st.
June 30th. So we have 10 months. So I would say that there is there's 10 months left in the fiscal year if we start submitting a timesheet with the next payroll.
Okay, well, let's calculate on that. So you might-
So let's assume let's assume if you have $9,500 per person and you divide it by 10, you've got $950 a person per month max. So 950 a month, and if it was 40 hours, that's 2375 per hour.
Yeah, how many hours did you say?
10 a week.
Okay,
That's 40 hours a month. 10 times 4 is 40. Last I checked. So if you take 950 and divide it by 40, that's 2375 an hour. And so if you come into the step and grades, the if we went to grade 15, it starts at $25 an hour. So we have to be sensitive to the grades being able to support the grades and steps, being able to support a rate. And if we could come up with a grade, maybe then we can target where we think somebody should start. Now, we don't have to be at 16 or 18. 15,
well, hold on, slow down, just let me figure something out here, give me a second.
I've been a lister for 12 years.
Of course.
So can you give me some idea what you're trying to, so we don't,
I just, okay, there's 43 weeks in one day. So. In one day. Between September 1st. And let's call it 43 weeks. So divide,
well, it's gonna be based on the town payroll structure.
I understand that, but I'm trying to get
So
a number.
just take it twice a month.
That I understand too, that can be built into this calculation, I'm trying to just find out a weekly pay rate, period, and we double that for a weekly pay rate, okay? I'm just trying to figure out how much. Because what I'm really trying to do is get a daily rate for over the course of 10 months. An hourly rate, I'm trying to figure what an hourly rate would be based on all of this stuff. And I think I know what I'm doing. Just doing simple math. It's
Well-
really simple math, but
So I gave you 2375. That was the number. If we were to work the $9,500 through the next 10 months at $950 a month, 40 hours a month, it's $23.75 an hour. I just gave that to you.
How many hours a month did you say?
40,
40, okay,
10 hours a week.
okay,
Now, again, that's a budget of a plan. That's not, we're not always gonna work that, because something else is
I
gonna
know,
happen. or
I understand that, but I mean,
It's
it's,
gonna be a little,
my concern is simply that if, we can't go over the budget, because we're not gonna get anywhere,
yeah,
so not that, so we gotta, I'm just trying to think of like worst case scenarios here, that's all. So that,
well, we're working with the 9,500 per person, so if we have to work more hours, because there's only two of us, we still have a cushion of the other amount.
right,
There's nothing that says that these dollars have to be spent equally anywhere in this.
Right.
That is not what was asked for.
but 10 hours a week, is relatively reasonable, so,
10 or more, depending upon the time.
well,
Yeah,
you're right, but,
right. It fluctuates, but no, so if we have two listers, that's 20 hours of office coverage a week.
right. But, okay, so 10 hours a week.
40 hours a month. You got 950, that's 23.75 an hour. Now I'm trying to convert that over to this matrix. And to be fair, I mean, we've got, some money to work with to entice somebody to become a lister. I don't know if $25 an hour makes anybody enticed to become a lister or not.
Well, that's a median wage for this region.
Okay, so so do we want to start, because what I'm trying
It's
to.
not McDonald's, let's put it that way.
No, I don't even, this is municipality, so right? And whoever is in this position is a Norwich resident. That's the only people that can be in it.
Right,
So are we, if we look at this current structure, Ernie, look at this, please. So grade 15, the very first step is 25 bucks an hour, coincidentally.
yeah,
If we go to 16, it's 26.28 an hour. If we go to 17, it's 27.60, and if we go to 18, it's $29 an hour. Does somebody coming off of their house in Norwich with no experience become a lister at $29 an hour? Is that a reasonable starting point, or is that
No, I think
excessive?
no, I think that's excessive simply because, blistering is hard, but it's not that hard.
Well, I'm not putting the dollar amount in as hard or not hard. I'm putting it
No,
in
I'm putting it
knowledgeable
in the level of skill.
skill set.
I mean, how, some people can learn things and some people can't.
Yes,
It doesn't matter what the skill is,
right.
okay? But listering is one of those skills that lots of people can do.
Yes. Yes. They could do it if they wanted to, and now that they can get paid to do it,
Right,
it could be an incentive.
right.
So my point is, if we pick, because of the current wage scale, if we pick grade 15, we can say that's where we want to have the listers be paid from. You and I might be in a different step.
Right, that's fine, because we've
Okay.
done this for a while.
Well, I understand that, but I might be in a different one than you as well.
Mhm.
Okay? So all I'm saying is, if we can,
Yeah, but on the other hand, I've had to put up with you.
that's true. I
That's
can nix
not-
that to the comment to the public. And what was unclear at the time when we did the budget, Ernie, it was 22.02 an hour. If you look at this document that I gave you. In front of you.
Yeah.
When the listers presented the last budget, which you were a part of with Jonathan,
Yes, I remember that.
there was a pool of 1658 hours for 3 listers, paid by the hour was 22.02 an hour.
But I don't remember, by the way, it was going through these relatively exhausting process that we're going through now to determine that hourly rate.
Well, 1658 divided by 3 is 553 hours a lister. Divided by 12 is 46 hours a month. And we just discussed working 40 hours a month. So I think
Right, I don't recall discussing more than 10 hours a week.
Sure.
At any time,
Sure.
so.
I know, but then when the stuff comes to a statutory deadline, we have to get it done.
Right, I got that, but then we sort of budget our time, same way.
We have to, right? There's only so much we can earn.
Right, so, we may not want to put in 10 hours a week starting now, we want to put it in starting sometime later.
Well, yeah, we have to take care of the office, answer the emails. There's some organizing in here that needs to get done. There is work to be done.
Okay.
Amanda's helping out still, so that's great. We can have her stop helping at any point we feel that that's no longer benefiting us. But, with all of that said, we talked about $22 an hour back at the budget time. That was a random number.
Right,
If you
that's
take
what I was trying to get at.
2202 divided by 1.03, you get 2138. So we're still coming in, if we come and start to grade 15, we're coming in above what we budgeted at the time, but I think we're fine with the grade 15. I don't know.
Well, you're an accountant.
When did you get reelected? You got elected in
This year.
24.
Yes, that's when I got elected.
Was
I
it-
was, I
You
think
know-
that. Yes, I got elected, well, I got, re-elected, 2024,
So 2023, you did there was a write-in.
right, we're gonna do 3 more years of this.
So you've been here for 2 years. Currently,
Yes,
with several years prior.
I had 5 years before.
Okay, so with that said, it's the factor that's there is the change in the software since you were last here, which is AssessPro. The adding of Vermont Pi, which is the direction the state is headed with grand lists. And, the reduction of NEMRIC out of the picture. So the things that you knew yourself
Right, but,
are fading or
right,
and
but the thing,
changing.
the new, the principles haven't changed much.
The principles, meaning the basis for assessments and what have you.
Right.
I get that. But the processes to get what we need
Right,
to.
but technical processes aren't, you're talking about basically learning the software.
Mhm.
And that's usually not a big problem for most people.
So that's true. It's the software and then how to send the data over to Vermont Pi.
Right.
There are steps that have to be followed and.
Right,
things
and
that-
as we know, it being a Vermont program, specified program, it is garbage.
All right, well, that's not necessary right now.
Well, that's,
But, so anyway, with that said, if we pick grade 15 as our Lister grade, which obviously we can go up from,
Mhm.
Does that feel right to you?
yes,
Okay. Now, the town clerk is the only other elected official that is compensated currently on a regular basis. The select board is, but that's just a stipend, as we know. Treasurer is just a stipend. So that there's some basis for the rate of pay, which is important, and
well,
I'm not sure we need to be in direct relationship to the town clerk, who's a full-time employee of the
Right.
town. So I'm not feeling that. I appreciated Pam's analysis and suggestion. And so I printed this off for us, and then we've got this to work from, and then the budget. So those were the things that, and again, I went back to the 2022 compensation and benefits thing that VLCT puts together. And the pay rates of listers throughout the state of Vermont are all over the place.
I know,
And what it came down to, and this, again, this is only those towns that responded So for instance, Norwich is not in this document, because Norwich didn't respond to it.
Well, no one didn't pay his listers either.
No, it doesn't matter. It's how you pay them and what you pay them. If it's a stipend, you put that in there.
Oh, okay.
It has nothing to do with just being an hourly. There's many that show, now there's some other things. They show a chair getting extra money each year. Some of them show that. Some of them show a higher rate for people that have been around longer. Like I said, that all is in this document. But again, it varies town to town, and when they got done at the end of the page here, the number of hours and the median number of hours, the average number of hours, the average pay rate, the median pay rate, all get pulled down if a town has assessors that are doing the work like we've had here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't give you a copy of this. It's too much to look at. We've already, spent a lot of time looking at documents that you didn't have ahead of time. But I just copied this again today for a basis of how to set a pay rate. A lot of them pay the same exact rate. So somebody that works as a lister for 12 years is getting the same rate as the one that walks in the door. That is one of the methodologies. And then there are other towns where it changes with service. My throat's getting. Amanda, who works with Newberry, they're at $22.98, but she gets $23.98 because she's training the other listers. So she's getting $1 more an hour because she's training. Some of that's the stuff that's unique to Newberry and the filing system and all that, not the VT-Pi. They use NEMRIC. So, are we coming close to a okay
Yeah,
decision?
I'm thinking, let's use grade 15.
All right. And then we can sort out our years of service and decide where we're at in the grade, but knowing that a new lister that we might come in and be appointed or elected.
Yeah, the problem I see, see, doing that right now, later on, maybe we can adjust the policy. But right now, we have a huge disparity. We got somebody who's been here for going on 13 years, someone who's been here total of 7 years, and then we might have somebody who's brand new. And I just see such a huge disparity that I also see the money running out. If we do stuff like that, possibly.
So the less expensive lister should work more hours. Oh, no, that's not what you were thinking.
No, that's not what I'm thinking that it makes that, to me, it makes it more difficult to keep track of everything also. Where the budget's going, because if we are basing it on $950 a person who's got a lot more, who's getting more, is gonna run through their 950 hours, 950 a month. They're gonna run through their allotment of hours faster than the ones who are earning less. That's my concern.
That's your concern, and I understand the concern, so we would need to do some number crunching as to hours to be worked. Right, so that's part of this calculation, not just an hourly rate, but how many hours can that person work at that rate for 10 months? And what's the maximum dollar amount? If it's, let's just say, we all want to work 10 hours in a week. So 10 times a rate.
Right.
Times 40.
In theory, all three listers are equal partners, so I think in terms of, I'm not comfortable with too much of a spread between a senior lister, so to speak, and a rookie lister. I have, because that's no one right now, the only person that has any control over the amount of time they have been is a lister and absorb the job is the one who's got the most time here. Everyone else is got just a lot less time, period. And I'm thinking that's not really good for morale either.
Well, I hear what you're saying, Ernie, and yet I'm more than happy to relinquish some of the hours to have less of him in here.
Well, right. I
So,
mean,
so
how many
that's
hours?
my offer.
Well, the thing, yeah, and I mean, how many hours do you put in right now?
It varies. I mean, you can
Well, I
look at
know that,
all,
but roughly average. What kind of an average would you say you're putting here?
well, if I count my remote work, which I try to add in and count in, it's anywhere from,
Yeah, I think remote work counts because, especially your remote work, because it's really the same thing you'd be doing here.
right. Oh, let me see if I can give you an idea, because I kept every timesheet I put in. And, 12.50, 12 and a half hours, 8.5 hours for a 21-hour payroll period. 29 and a half hours. So that's 2 weeks, right? So we're talking, 29 and a half, so 20 hours 1 week, 9 hours another week. So, it fluctuates. Here's 15 and a half and 10 and a half. That was 26 hours, so that was a little bit more. This was 64 hours. This was during grand list buildup and all the work the prior week. I worked almost a 40-hour week, the
Yeah.
week before the grand list was lodged. And I worked 11 hours on the Monday before the grand list was lodged. Plus I worked the weekend to get the grand list accurate.
Right.
So again, there's some, real hours that, June is very critical. Working with KRT and stuff, 27 hours and 14 hours. Yeah, I mean, if I go back, I mean, we kind of wanted it to be 12 and 12, or 24 hours a pay period, 12 hours a week was
Right.
sort of what we had targeted the admin person to be in. So a 24-hour work week, I've been more like 20, 23 and a half, 24, 27, 21, 26, 40, that was when, the big stuff hit. But that isn't even really, and that big pay period there and all, wasn't even really lister work. If you look at the job description of what the lister clerk was supposed to do, it was all the work I was doing.
Right, I understand.
So the listers were just signing. I make a motion to approve the grand list and sign
I
it.
got it.
Yeah. So, those are the hours that need to be divvied up. And I understand what you're saying, but there's nothing more better for me to have fewer hours. And so that's what I'm saying to you is, if I'm at a higher rate than you are, and the third person is at, I am more than happy to let the other two take on some load. So as long as everybody is doing the work well,
Right.
that's all. I don't know what this time sheet represents. I gotta look at that. I think that's my last clerk one right there.
Okay.
Anyway, so I think if we can agree on grade 15. And should we make a motion to do this and all, memorialize it?
Yeah.
Yes, and that was the goal of this, was to. So,
By the way, you can make motions too, just because you're the
Yeah.
chair.
yes, well, it was just the two of us, right? So,
Right.
Yeah. Are you more comfortable if I do it now?
Yes, right now.
Great.
No, it's because I'm trying to wrap my head around stuff, and right now, I'm just not in the mood for having to come up with legalistic language.
Well, I'm gonna make it very simple for me. I'm going to make a motion that the listers new pay structure for hourly pay uses grade 15
Okay,
on the on the Norwich wage scale for FY 25.
Okay, and where does it start beyond in terms of step? Number one,
Yeah, we start with,
okay,
depending on. And then you want to include that in the motion? Is that all what you want to include in the?
yeah,
motion?
I think that should be, and each of these steps is basically chronological, I mean, it goes up because of time. So you move to step 2 next year, to step 3, whatever, it's over after a certain fixed period of time.
Yes, and then there's a COLA adjustment to the scale, so
Right.
that's gonna be automatic, and then we gotta make
But-
sure
but-
that the next level
But
gets.
everybody, right now, you and I would start at the same place, and then if somebody else comes in, they'll be probably a step behind. But if we don't get somebody this year, they'd be a step behind.
Well, I didn't say that I was agreeing that we start at the same place, you and me.
Okay,
What?
no, you're just complicating things, that's all.
I think we can work it out, Ernie, as to where we fall into these
Okay,
steps. There's 20 of them. What we think is where we should be, but I think selecting the grade is important. So I'm gonna, again, make a motion that we compensate the listers at a grade 15 and a step that is relative to the years of service. Without being specific as to which those are.
right, because I can just see, if each year of service, you said you've been here 12, so. So that would be, after 12 years, it would be 3109, which is grade L. Step.
Step L, that would be correct. Now. Having just been in as clerk, well, we haven't had a second to the motion before we discuss the motion. Maybe you don't want that motion.
Well, I mean, do I count as having 7 years of experience or 2 years?
I think it's more than 2.
Right.
I agree.
I have no idea how to assess that.
I have to think about it with you. I think that it's more than 2, because you have a depth of knowledge that you understand, but you need to get trained and familiarized with the other work. And as I have said, even setting up a lister meeting and getting the Zoom ready and posting the notices and taking the draft minutes and that's all equalized now. That's everybody's job. Not just going in and doing assessments or answering an email. It's all of it. So one meeting, if we had one meeting a month, month it's your turn to do whatever part you do and I'll do the other part. Next month we swap. I'll do the draft.
Well, I was gonna say the chair, whoever the
Yes.
chair is, because still have to have a chair. The chair has certain responsibilities, which is like posting the agenda, one of the things.
And I can make you chair. We can make you chair.
Yeah, don't do that. Do not do that, because I will refuse. I already hold, I hold three other positions in the town. Plus, I'm trying to still earn a living despite supposedly being retired, because there's no such thing in our generation.
So how can I word the motion to make you comfortable? Can I, maybe I'll make a motion to pay the listers,
Compensate the listers.
compensate the listers at grade 15 of the Norwich wage scale for FY 25 and at a step consistent with experience.
Okay, let's try out, see how that works.
So I'll make that motion.
But now the next,
Are you gonna second the motion and we can
Well,
discuss some more?
okay, second,
Okay, if you second it, we can still vote it down,
right. Oh, we can amend it.
or we can amend it. So now we're under discussion.
Okay, the only thing I'm concerned about that is somebody who steps in, is this gonna, is there going to, is grade 15 enough of an incentive to get somebody to be new, to want to be here, even though they've never done it before?
Well,
If other people are getting, numbers that are more than that.
if I start out in a business, I don't expect to get what the manager gets.
No, but what about other employees? Who do the same thing as you, but have been doing it longer? The same thing that you are assigned to do when you take the job.
So I can't, so I'm trying to think of, I'm making sure I understand your question. So if somebody comes in brand new and they're reading the Lister handbook and they're,
Don't forget, this is not a job that people are doing because they've trained in college and this is what they want to do with their life.
Roger,
This is a job that needs to be done. And, some people feel obliged, through self motivation and stuff to do work for the community they live in.
yes,
Is altruistic, basically altruistic. So, it's not like being an engineer where that you got to start out low, because basically getting to be an engineer is kind of its own reward. Being a lister isn't necessarily its own reward. It's just work that has to be done.
right. And what I would say to you is that the reason I have stayed as long as I have is because of the networking I've done, the people I've met that are also listers in other towns nearby, and learning from them and finding out the support that we have as listers amongst the listers and amongst the property valuation and review group. See, it's not coming in here every day that motivates me. It's those other things that expand this position and the training
Right.
and learning.
I mean, I have a whole other reason for being here, certainly to keep the office open, the position open, and make it, not lose another democratically elected position in this town. We're already over professionalized and it's become very expensive to live here because of that.
Yes.
So I'm trying to oppose that. I'm not here because I love the job of being a lister or anything like that. I already volunteered enough other stuff.
Yeah.
For the town. I don't need this on my list of volunteers.
Well, maybe we could ask Everett. Everett, you're welcome to, you've heard a lot of what we've talked about, and we're trying to wrestle with this new compensation opportunity that we have thanks to the voters. And so, if you were to come in off the street to, want to become a lister and learn more about it and all this $25 an hour for this seem at all.
I agree that would be an okay wage rate if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Well, my question is, would you feel sort of slighted or, if there other listers were earning a bit more?
No. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. You're somebody that we didn't know we'd have available to, have your comments and all. I've had a couple other conversations with people, but you're sort of the independent opinion out there for us. So appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts as we wrestled this?
Well, not currently, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there is some making a good feeling. Yeah. I think I feel like in the past, Ernie, there were people that did the lister position who were all compassionate and motivated and came in wanting to learn and do the job equally. And I think in the past, that equalization of race.
I would say that would have been the first time I did this job.
Yeah.
But then, certain people destroyed what the job was.
Yes. We've lived through that change.
Right.
And
So
it's back where
Right, but now at that time, I didn't have any other than, development review board, I had nothing else, and I was towing Justice of the Peace, which,
Yeah. Yes,
that's a really light load, it's enjoyable,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
So
sure. But it's got its aggravations too, because you got meetings that go with that.
Yeah, they're interesting meetings,
But you get to marry people.
that's one of the nice parts.
Right. Okay, so we now have a motion to pay the listers at grade 15 at a step consistent with experience.
Yeah, all right, I can live with that language too.
At
Vote
a
on.
step consistent with experience. I moved that. You seconded it.
Yep.
We've had lively discussion. We've had public comment with us. Do you feel like you can vote?
Yes,
Okay, so your vote is,
yeah,
good, and I'll say yes. And so we have tackled this very important and exciting change back to things that the way they used to be. All right, well, that's great. Okay. So next item is, and there's paperwork that we need to fill out to get into the system, Ernie.
I saw that.
Okay, I know
Jeez.
you love paperwork, so I've got to do some of it too. So that's just the way it's gonna be. Norwich Sharon boundary line, I put this on here last night at the select board meeting. We had this discussion. We got no decision from the select board on assisting with this. Because they don't feel it's a boundary line dispute. Today, Amanda and I both spent time reviewing the surveys. And I think, Ernie, it's going to be important for you to do that as well, so that we can chat briefly. But that,
Larry was, as I was walking by the town manager's office, town clerk's office, I asked if I could look at the original of this document again, because this is hard to read. I really wish we had a kind of large
Right.
scale print.
okay, well, I just want to recap and not get into a lot of it, but I think you and I need to go back over the documents that Amanda and I looked over today. That I spoke with the town manager and that he does agree from reading that and looking at the thing, it's a straight line. He does not disagree with the straight line decision error. That's not his problem. The question he has, and now I have, and I'm working on it today with Amanda, is what is the 2.4 acre? Where is the 2.4 acres?
Well,
What does
that
it look like? And if it's just a triangle, which is what it looks like on the survey, but we have in our system what is a triangle plus this leg of it,
Yes.
is this wrong or not? So,
Well, look, I was looking at that. This is these-
or is that the no man's zone with the two boundary lines?
I think, that's the two, but I think my take on that is that's the boundary, the no man's zone, 2 lines. Because if you look, I wish I had a ruler. Do we have a ruler? I've been using a piece of paper.
Yes, I have a ruler. Give the engineer a ruler.
Cheryl,
Yes,
I'm gonna have to bow out to do some nursing.
you bet. Thank you for doing that.
Okay.
And thanks for being here and let
Yeah,
us know
we'll
what you
talk-
thought.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Okay, thanks so
Take
much,
care.
Everett.
All right.
All right,
Okay, so this is not the best, this drawing is curtailed, so it's makes problematic. Okay,
right, so that's what I was thinking then now.
okay, wait, give me that, yeah, that.
Give the engineer his ruler.
So,
This is the,
the property boundary is this road. Okay, so here's 2.4. Basically,
this.
and this is.
No, and on this one, it's just this. Because this is a boundary line.
Yeah, and then what
this is a boundary
that's
line.
well, what this assumes is that the straight line is correct. And it's just, the assumption is the triangle is in this, inside here, okay, is, well, that's the way it would be, because that's the argument.
I'm just saying. This is what's in the map, so if you think this is the difference between the two boundary lines.
Yes, I do,
That's all that this is.
yes, that's what I said,
And the 2.4 acres is right here.
correct,
So if you take this, there's probably another 8 acres.
yes,
And that is what is being added,
yes,
and that's where the boundary lines differ.
yes.
Well, I would love to have this continue as a conversation between us in the office so that we can resolve
Yeah,
this.
And well,
Because,
here's what we are really, our position in this is. This came up to us because of an assessment issue, as an assessment issue, a person who doesn't like the assessment and wants us to use a particular boundary line as a particular line as the boundary for his property, okay? But we know one of those lines is an error, because there are two lines. We know there are two lines, and one of them is an error. Which one? Now, the town has to figure that out. Which one it is. Now, right now, last night I brought up the idea it's a straight line. Now, it turns out the town manager has apparently thought through and agrees it's anyway,
it's a straight line.
it's a straight line. But now, really, where is it relative to that property? There's two problems. Our problem is where is the line relative to that property? Because these people believe that the line is what in a position, a place that makes their liability to Norwich 2.4 acres, and it excludes 8 acres. That's what they want us to believe. That's what they're fighting about, and so on.
And that the Sharon listers believe the line is at.
Right.
Where we believe the line is not there.
Right,
It's another.
but the thing is that you gotta think, why would Norwich have allowed, let's pretend that, for the sake of discussion, that the bent line, the one with 3 points on it that creates the triangle, is an actual boundary. What we have to find out is, and it has to be proved on record, that there was a decision made by Norwich to surrender or cede that land to Sharon for some reason. The town of Norwich had to agree to that, okay? Why would they agree to having, instead of a nice straight line as their boundary, this one sliver shaved off the town's
Okay.
land?
Okay.
Why would they do it? You have to, that has to be on the record. If there's no
All right.
record out, you can't believe it.
Okay, with all good stuff, Ernie, but the gist of this meeting right now is to recognize the fact of our agenda item at this meeting is to recognize the fact that there's a BCA hearing coming and we need to prepare for it.
Right.
From our side.
Right.
Okay,
And what we.
so we don't need to play it all out right now.
No,
because-
we have to say, you can't deny. It's ridiculous to think that the town of Norwich has ceded land to Sharon and it had a 3-point line, when the charter says the line is a straight line from one point to another point, and that's it.
Okay,
Okay, and it says it'll never shall change. Now, of course, it can change, but that's not the point. It hasn't changed because there's no record of a change.
okay,
So wait, I'm not done. Just hear me out. I know. I'm a lawyer, okay? And I'm gonna argue like a lawyer when it comes to this kind of thing. It's also interesting, it's also history. Point is, history matters, even in the law, okay? You gotta think. If I was a judge, I'd be thinking, there's no record, no good record of the town of Norwich agreeing.
adjudicating.
No, first the town actually agrees with the other town.
You're talking to somebody that agrees with you, Ernie. I don't need a lecture on what we agree about.
I know, but
I'm trying to do is move the meeting
I'm
along.
trying to say how we're gonna have to present it.
Well, let's talk about that off the Zoom meeting today here. I think,
I thought that we wanted to talk about that now.
no, I don't think we need
Okay,
to.
all right, okay.
I think it would be unfortunate for this Zoom meeting to be watched and by people who might watch it that
Okay,
are going to be influenced by our
I-
discussion. So all I'm saying is we got no decision from the select board last night to assist us.
Right.
One of the options we do have, if we keep it at a high level view, is we could ask town council for assistance.
Yes,
That's an option, right? I don't know that we want to or not. At this point, maybe we ask with the BCA hearing that they ask for town council.
one question I have is, why doesn't the opinion of someone who's a lawyer, who's in this argument matter?
You can't have two hats. You have to wear one or the other. You're a lister.
But
You can use your legal knowledge, just like I can use my accounting knowledge to benefit me doing the job, but you can't represent the
No,
listers.
I'm not representing, no, I didn't mean it like
Okay,
that, but I'm
okay.
saying, I've done this work, I know what I'm talking about. You know,
Well, like like Roger said, you're paid by the hour now, get it done. Okay, get it done.
right.
We have to come up with a packet of information to submit for the
Right, do we have
BCA
to-
hearing.
Do we have to ask the select board to let us contact the town council?
I think what they said to me in the
How does
past,
that work?
what they've said in the past is let the town manager know that we would like to get town council's advice on something.
Okay.
And what it is, and
Can we ask them, you know, because they're not around here. And I don't know what they're gonna do, what they're willing to do and how much it's gonna cost the town. I've already done the work. So technically, and I'm just as qualified as they are to do that work. I'm not looking for the money for it. I was doing it because it was interesting to me. Okay, and I'm interested in this process, its history as well as, and its common sense and all kinds of things, you know. But that doesn't mean the work I've done isn't of the same caliber as a law firm. Since I am a lawyer, I can do lawyer caliber work. And so just because I'm not getting paid doesn't mean that it's not good
what is
quality
your
work.
point? What are you saying?
So I would like to make sure that what I've done is considered when they make their opinion. I don't want them starting absolutely de novo and pretending that nothing else, no one else has looked at this.
Who
There's
is
some-
de novo?
if the town council looks at this problem, are they going to look at work that you might have done and I certainly have done? Or are they gonna just start absolutely from the scratch and, you know, do all the same redundant research that we've done
Well,
and make this an expensive proposition?
I have never gone about utilizing them in that regard. So let's just take another example. There was a model personnel policy on VLCT's website. Apparently, the town manager's office took that model policy, brought it around to Norwich-ish things and said, here's the model policy with town of Norwich and our peculiarities. Here, legal firm, take a look at it and tell us if we've goofed anywhere. So they didn't write the policy, they didn't create the policy, they reviewed and said, well, what we know about municipal personnel policies is
Right.
this, or
That's
that.
that,
So I would say to you, in this example, I would prefer to give them, here's the stuff we've got
yeah,
and what we believe, and
okay,
don't start from scratch.
right, okay, that answers my question.
And it would be my preference to have them speak with us directly.
Yes, that's kind of something we have to make sure the town manager makes clear, so.
So town council's an option. The BCA hearing is looking like it's going to be scheduled. I don't know. So the town clerk was asking about. Yeah, the 16th doesn't work for me. So the 9th, again, that's the day we meet with KRT
Yeah,
appraisal.
I can only do like one meeting a day.
Well, it's gotta be that night, because there's only 2 dates that she's gonna offer, and I don't think the 16th. I don't know if she's sending out a doodle poll or not.
What poll?
A doodle,
Never heard of it.
it's a poll you send out by email and people check the dates that work for them. If you sent them out before, you just haven't responded to them. So,
Well, I've already got the reappraisal meeting. I caught the reappraisal meeting.
Yeah,
It said at 10 o'clock that day.
10 o'clock that day. Like I just said, we talked about it just earlier in the agenda.
Yeah, just making sure.
Couple of hours. Maybe we'll end up with lunch for everybody. I don't know, Ernie. We'll just have to wait and see. Depends on how it all works together for the couple of hours I'm expecting we're gonna need for that meeting. With that said, the scheduling of the BCA hearing is something that, well, we'll have to have the packet ready next week. You know,
Yeah,
packet, it's gotta get done, and Friday's the VALA meeting, so that's out. So the 5th is the day that the VALA, I mean, that the BCA packet has to be done by us to be ready so that it can be shipped off so many days in advance to the town clerk, who exchanges the
Mhm.
documentation. Again, it is a de novo, but you go in with the presumption of accuracy as a
I'm
board
trying to
of
remember
directors.
where I'm just thinking out loud. Because one thing I want to see is a map that shows the two conflicting lines, and I know I saw it through that
Okay.
one, that BC.
Okay, I'll show you a couple things after the meeting. So I think what I want to keep us in line with is we've got to get a packet ready for the BCA hearing, which is coming up, and Lily hasn't announced that specific date yet, but we'll know soon. Anything else that you want to talk about with the Norris Sharon boundary line
No,
after last night? Okay. Okay, approval of the Lister draft minutes from 8/7 of 2024, our last meeting.
No problems with them.
Okay, would you like?
Yep. Make a motion to approve the minutes of
Okay.
the August 7th meeting.
All right, I will second,
Aye.
and all in favor, aye. All right. Unanimous. Okay, and the next item is to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Okay, EC adjourned. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and we are done at 4:19 PM. Okay, great. Thank you. And I will stop the recording. Let me give it a second here.